Welcome to Steve Means Business, the podcast dedicated to promoting and highlighting small business all across America. As an entrepreneur who has launched many small businesses in various industries over the years and blessed with the gift of gab, Steve was made for this podcast. Let's do this.
Welcome to Steve Means Business, the podcast all about promoting small businesses all across America. My name is Steve Weinberg. I'm a small business owner and entrepreneur myself. Today, we're talking Arizona real estate, and I got just the guy for the topic. He's lived in this town his whole life. He's an Arizona native. He's got 25 years experience in both the real estate and title industries. He's currently a realtor with Russ Lyons Sotheby's International Realty right here in Scottsdale. And best of all, he might have one of the greatest names you'll ever hear, Fletcher Wilcox. I mean, this name, he could be a gunfighter right out of the Josie Wales days, or he could be an investment banker on Wall Street. That name has a ton of cachet. The irony is, guys, Fletcher is one of the most down-to-earth, nicest guys you'll ever meet, despite the fancy name. His middle name might be Mensch. There's a rumor going around town, but seriously, just a great guy. Fletcher, welcome to the podcast.
Well, Steve, it's great to be here, and thank you for that. Was quite an introduction.
All true, by the way. All true. Tell us about what's going on in Arizona real estate, Fletcher.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about the Greater Phoenix residential resale marketplace. And you know, right off the bat, I mean, let's look at really what's going on. Sales are down. There's no doubt about it. They're down overall around the country. They're down here. And why? The major reason they're down is because of the high mortgage rate. That is keeping a lot of buyers out of the market. And the high rate is also keeping a lot of sellers from selling because they're kind of locked into that great rate. Now with that said, and I'll go through some other stats on the residential real estate in Greater Phoenix market, we've got some really good things going for us. One is population growth. I use the Census Bureau data frequently, and I went there, and they measured net population growth for counties from 2020 to 2023, and guess which county gained more people than any other county in the United States? Right here, Maricopa County gained 142,000 people, and so we've got a lot of pent-up demand to own. Some of those people have bought that have come in the last 3 years. A lot of them are renting. A lot of them are waiting. Another thing is job growth. There was a study done at the beginning of the year by a company called WalletHub.com. I follow them every year. They look at 182 cities, and out of all the cities, they rank Scottsdale the number one city in the country for jobs. And then a bunch of our other cities in Maricopa County fell in line, Chandler, Phoenix. In the past, we've seen Glendale, Gilbert. So we've got job growth and population growth. And one thing, too, is companies are looking for STEM workers, people that are trained in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. ASU and other institutions are graduating those type of workers. So companies are saying, hey, I'm going to move to the Greater Phoenix area because they've got STEM workers and they've got an increasing population. And people often move here because they see companies are moving here. And one other thing, just to touch on briefly, a lot of companies do relocate here because the lack of perceived national disasters, which is a very positive thing. So,
no, I think you're right. I think that's a great point. You know, as some of the viewers may know, in a prior life, I've been an executive recruiter in the technology sector for 25 years. And so I've dealt with so many companies, software and hardware industry, and there's a lot of data centers here. A lot of data centers have moved to Phoenix specifically because, for the most part, we don't have a lot of natural disasters. We don't have the hurricanes and tornadoes and some of those other disasters other cities and states have. I mean, outside of like a lightning strike that spurs a fire in the desert, or some knucklehead flicks a cigarette in the desert, we really are, relatively speaking, pretty stable. We have some of the best weather in the country for 8.5 months out of the year. Yeah, it's extreme hot right now, 115 or so, but you know, you could run up to Flagstaff a couple hours away. So it's a great area to work and live. The quality of life is fantastic here. And, you know, talk about, aside from rates, what are the factors, you know, factor in to where, and let me just give some context. Let me back up for a minute. Fletcher and I are blessed to live in a beautiful part of town. We're in the McCormick Ranch Shea area. There's so much greenery, the parks, the green belts, the bike paths, the golf courses, the lakes you can walk, restaurants, retail shops that you could walk to, which is pretty rare in Scottsdale, or excuse me, pretty rare in Arizona, where it's that intimate, homey kind of neighborhood. And that's why our area is so desirable. You'll see people renovate their homes 3 and 4 times and stay there over a 50, 60-year period because it's all about location, location, location. And there's some other great neighborhoods, aside from Scottsdale, obviously, that Fletcher, you handle a lot of the other, talk to about the other markets or cities that you cover as well, and about the type of properties that you handle in your practice.
Well, so yeah. Let me just take a step back and talk a little bit more about the residential market. I mentioned that sales are a little slow, but that doesn't mean they're slow everywhere. You really have to look at the location, and we always hear location, location, location. Well, there's some locations where the property may be on the average day of properties in the market right now is 58 days, maybe on the market 2 days because nothing ever comes up in that subdivision, or it could be in the market 120, but the average day is 58. And then when, for instance, I just sold a condo in Phoenix, $270,000, even though I mentioned the market is slowed, not in that price range. That price range is hot, lots of showings, under contract, and people still want to see it because, one, its location, and two, its price range. I've got a listing up in the $6 million range. That's getting activity from serious people, but not the amount of activity on the lower end of the range. So, when we talk real estate, we really, if anybody's thinking of selling or buying, they really have to have their agent analyze that area. What's the activity in that area, and what are some of the other trends going on? But let me talk a little bit about median purchase price. January, the median purchase price for a single-family home in Greater Phoenix, $490,000. By April, it was $520,000, an increase of $30,000 or 6%. We generally see the pattern every year. It is now April, May. It kind of flattened out, and it actually dropped a little bit in June. And over the years, I often see the median purchase price drop in June or July. I used to call it the June-July effect. But a lot going on. About half the transactions have a seller concession where the seller actually contributes to part of the buyer's closing cost. And again, I say half, but then when we break it down by geographic and price range, it might be 30% or it may be 60% are buyers are giving the seller concession.
I think one other topic, and I mentioned I've done some flips over the years. I'm a big fan of real estate. I love working with a project. You get a home, it's like a blank canvas, or you rehab it, and then you sell it, you turn a nice profit, and you realize the payday, and it's just a feeling of a mission accomplished. So I've been a part of about 15, 20 transactions, and one thing that I noticed that has helped where maybe a property might not be moving is I'm a big fan of staging the property. Maybe some of the lower end properties might not need it. Like you say, the demand is so high, it'll just go naturally, organically. But I think when you get into some of the higher end properties, staging is important, at least from my perspective. I want to get your take in a minute, because you're not assigning the task to the buyer or prospective customer as to, hey, what would I do here? This bedroom could be converted to an office, or I put a pocket door here so the doors don't swing, or something like that, or this would be a better spot for a larger table or even like a movable island. And if you could take care of that task, if you will, so they just walk in and boom, they fall in love and like, I gotta have it. That's the reaction you want, versus giving them the assignment of figuring out where to put what and this and that. What's your take on staging properties?
Yeah, I'm very positive on staging, but again, I go back to price range, location, the condo I just went under contract, $270,000. The seller asked me, let's stage it. Should I stage it? I said no, let's not stage it. We had plenty of activity and went under contract. So yeah, I would say you get in the higher end properties. If the listing is vacant, staging will improve the chances of the sale and the price. As long as it's
one other subject
right. As long as the home's priced
right. Right, and there's two things. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry, but there's two things that I hear from. We have a lot of mutual friends, and we know some other realtors. What I hear, the common theme that they come back to is this: they say, "Steve, as long as it's priced right, and it's in, relatively speaking, a good location, it will sell. It may take a little bit longer, but it will sell as long as it's priced right. You can't grasp or try to reach out to last year's market. Hey, I was able to get this and that. It's what the market's willing to bear. And I think the seller needs to be realistic and in tune with their real estate agent to know what's realistic, guys, versus just grasping for straws or holding on to old pipe dreams. You've got to be in tune with what the market is now. And the other big thing that I hear coming up, and especially on the outlying areas, whether it's north, south, east, or west, it's the elephant in the room for Arizona, is water. What's the story with water supply? And it varies from neighborhood to neighborhood. Speak to that if you could.
Yeah, so I'm going to try to go through it pretty fast. But 2 years ago, when Lake Mead went below 1,075 feet, it kicked in something called Tier 1 water cuts here in Arizona. The area it affected mostly were farmers in Pinal County. It really did not have any effect on the cities. So with that said, yeah, we've got some water issues, but Arizona, very proactive. In 1980, Arizona passed the Groundwater Management Act that said if you're going to build a subdivision in either Maricopa, Pinal, Pima, or Yavapai counties, and a subdivision is defined as 6 or more homes, you must prove and go through a very tough process, prove that you have a 100-year water supply for that subdivision. So when I look at the major cities and some of the smaller cities within those counties I just mentioned, most of them have a 100-year water supply. On the outskirts of some of the counties in those areas, there's some challenges. And if you're outside of those active management areas, there is not as much regulation. So bottom line is, we have plenty of water for plenty of growth in Arizona, but you can't build everywhere, and you need to be within one of those active management areas that they can do the 100-year proven water supply. I read one stat that the city of Phoenix has 30 years of an underground water supply stored right now. City of Scottsdale has got a well program where they're storing underground water, and a lot of other cities have that too. So yes, we have water issues, but there are not water issues everywhere within the state. We got plenty of water.
It's segmented depending on where you live. And one thing I come back to, and I hear, like I said, as being an executive recruiter and helping people relocate here and talking about, I've seen so many people come here, especially we talked about from California, that yes, okay, we've had our ups and downs, and like you say, in the summer, peak months, we see a little bit of slowdown, but like we see an uptick in the other months. Compared to the other half dozen major cities around the country, the high cost of living, New York, New Jersey, LA, San Francisco, Boston, Chicago, we are still so affordable in the grand scheme of things, and obviously very desirable, that our town, knock on wood, our state, we are still in great shape. There's a lot of growth. Companies coming here, so many technologies coming here, like you referenced, in the STEM sector, if you will. We have at Arizona State University, it's a great incubator with all the labs and all the programs in the last 15 or 20 years to develop that talent, because these companies are going to need talent when others retire. So I think we are overall still in great shape, relatively speaking. So talk a little bit about your practice. That obviously you're based in Scottsdale, but from what I understand, you cover Phoenix, Mesa, Tempe, Glendale, all around the valley. Speak to that a little bit, if you could, please.
I'll work with any seller, any buyer within the greater Phoenix area. Sit down with them, and if you're a seller, let's find out what's been selling, what are days in market, which way trends are going, are prices going up or down, is inventory going up and down. And if you're a buyer, we'll look at some of those same things and represent you in writing a very competitive offer.
Right. And I'm going to put up banners. I'm the edit boy as well for my podcast. I'm going to put up banners with Fletcher's contact info and some of the, where you can reach him. But obviously, it looks like, you've got a presence on all the majority of the social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn as well. And like I said, I'll include all your information there. And one thing you can always notice, I always give Fletcher a little jazz. As usual, he's dressed sharp as a tack. He's got some of the best pocket squares in town, like he prides himself on always having. And I said to him one day, you always have this, and pardon my French, this shit-eating grin on your face as if you just found a $10,000 winning scratcher ticket in the parking lot as you're getting in your vehicle. But Fletcher really, he has such a great way about him. He's the nicest man you could ever deal with. I've known him about a half dozen years. We met by walking our dogs in the park when it's not 115 degrees outside. He just is, what you see is what you get. He is a genuinely super nice, humble man, down to earth. He can talk to anybody in the world. And like I said, you'll really enjoy working with him. He works super hard at what he does. He's been in the real estate and title industries for over 25 years. So he knows this town. Like I said, he's a native. And what would you like to just say to everybody as we wrap things up here, Fletcher, about your practice, the market, and just the floor is yours.
Well, yeah, if anybody has any questions about buying or selling, please, give me a call. We can talk about your area, which way the market's going. But let me mention one thing really quick too. I love home building.
Sure.
And if you're looking at having a custom home built on July 31st, I'm doing an event at the Scottsdale Association of Realtors where I'm going to have a panel of new home builders, custom home builders, talk about what the trends are, what they're building, what their clients want. So it'd be a great event to attend. If you're a real estate agent, you want to attend and find out, or if you're a home buyer that's looking to have a custom home built, get a hold of me and I'll let you know about that event. But overall, again, I'm really positive about the marketplace with our job growth, population growth, Steve. I've just seen the ups and downs in the market, and you just got to keep moving steady ahead.
That's great. And I was trying to cram everything in here. If I sound like I'm talking fast, we're trying to, get this all in. We could talk for hours on hours on real estate. It's just so exciting. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because one thing I want to get out there, Fletcher is a preferred and sought after speaker at all the real estate and title conferences all around town. He does a great job with it. And like I said, he is in high demand, and you'll see him, featured as the speaker on many of these conferences. Aside from the one that you just mentioned, are there any other events that you're coming up where you'll be speaking or participating with, whether it's on the home tours or, just add that in a little bit if you can.
Yeah. And actually, I'm speaking at a bank tomorrow on the state of our marketplace. And then on July 26th, I'm going to MC a 3-hour event on Arizona water, electricity. I'm going to have the chief meteorologist for Homeland Security talk about why a lot of people are moving to Arizona. And again, that's because of lack of natural disasters. But that's on July 26th if anybody's interested in that. So I do that speaking when I'm showing homes.
Okay, no, that's great. And like I said, I'll make sure we include a bunch of Fletcher's information here. Great stuff. I'm still super encouraged on our market. You see people moving here every single day, despite the 115. And like I say, it's a dry heat. But Fletcher, thanks so much for sharing all that insight and information. It was fantastic. And we'll look forward to having you again on the podcast down the line. Take care.
Steve, honor to be here. Thank you. And you have a great day. See you in the park.
You bet. Take care.
That's going to do it for today's episode of Steve Means Business. Be sure to subscribe and share this podcast with all your friends. Keep a heads up for episodes every week.